I walked into Christmas with my kids. My mom looked me dead in the eye and said, "Everything was peaceful, until you showed up." My 6-year-old lowered her head without saying a word. I kissed her hair and told my mom calmly, "Then my money's leaving with me." 5 minutes later, Mom started begging me. Without thinking twice, I did this. The cold December air hit my face as I stepped out of the car, my daughters trailing behind me. Maya, my 6-year-old, clutched her homemade ornament, a popsicle stick reindeer painted brown with googly eyes. Emma, my 10-year-old, carried the pie I'd spent 3 hours perfecting that morning. Their breath created little clouds in the winter air as we walked up the driveway to my childhood home. My mother's house looked exactly as it always did during the holidays. White lights draped across the porch railing, a wreath on the door, those ridiculous inflatable decorations scattered across the lawn. Dad would have hated those inflatables. He always said Christmas decorations should be tasteful, classic. But Dad had been gone for 3 years now, and Mom did whatever my brother Daniel suggested these days. I rang the doorbell instead of walking in. Something about the past year had changed my relationship with this house. It no longer felt like home. Mom opened the door wearing a red sweater I'd sent her last Christmas. Her face, usually so warm when she saw the girls, looked strained. Behind her, I could see Daniel's wife, Patricia, setting plates on the dining table. My brother stood near the fireplace, beer in hand, talking to Patricia's parents. "You're late," Mom said. Not hello. Not a hug for her granddaughters. Just that. "Traffic was heavy," I replied, ushering the girls inside. Maya immediately tried to hand Mom her ornament, but my mother had already turned away, heading back into the kitchen. Emma looked at me with those perceptive eyes that saw too much for a 10-year-old. I gave her a reassuring smile and helped both girls out of their coats. Daniel walked over, his expression carefully neutral. "Hey, Natalie." "Girls." He didn't bend down to their level. Didn't ask about school or comment on Maya's ornament that she still held hopefully in her small hands. "Hi, Uncle Daniel," Emma said, her voice quieter than usual. Patricia's mother, Diane, swept into the foyer with the energy of someone who owned the place. "Oh, the girls are here. Don't you two look adorable? Patricia made sugar cookies earlier, they're in the kitchen if you want to help decorate them." Maya's eyes lit up slightly, but she glanced at me first. I nodded, and both girls headed toward the kitchen, Emma taking Maya's hand protectively. I followed with the pie, navigating through the living room where Patricia's father, Robert, sat in what used to be my dad's chair. That stung more than I'd expected. The kitchen smelled like ham and cinnamon. Mom stood at the stove, stirring gravy with mechanical precision. Patricia was arranging vegetables on a platter, and my daughters had been directed to a small folding table in the corner, not the main counter where Patricia's niece and nephew were decorating cookies with Diane's enthusiastic supervision. I set the pie down on the counter. "Where would you like this?" Mom didn't look up. "Dessert table in the dining room. We already have 3 pies, but I'm sure we can find room." 3 pies. She'd asked me specifically to bring apple pie. Had told me on the phone last week that it was Maya's favorite and that she wanted her granddaughter to have something special. But apparently, pie number 4 was just a burden. I placed it carefully on the dining room table, next to what looked like store-bought pumpkin, pecan, and cherry pies. Mine, with its carefully latticed crust and the small dough leaves I'd shaped by hand, looked almost embarrassingly homemade next to the perfect commercial ones. When I returned to the kitchen, Maya was showing Mom her ornament again. "I made it in art class, Grandma. Miss Henderson said mine was really creative because I added jingle bells on the antlers." Mom glanced at it briefly. "That's nice, sweetheart. Why don't you go play with the other children? Can I hang it on your tree?" Maya's voice held such hope. "The tree is already decorated, Maya. Maybe next year." Mom returned to her gravy, dismissing my daughter with the same efficiency she'd used to dismiss the pie. I watched my little girl's face fall. Watched her fingers tighten around that ornament. Emma appeared at her side immediately, whispering something in her ear that made Maya nod. "Dinner's almost ready," Patricia announced brightly. "Everyone should start finding seats." The dining room table had been extended with extra leaves to accommodate Patricia's family. I counted 13 place settings. The chairs at the head and foot of the table, where Dad and Mom usually sat, had been taken by Robert and Diane. Mom would sit next to Robert, Daniel next to Diane. Patricia and her siblings filled in the middle. The 2 spots remaining were at the far end, squeezed between Patricia's teenage nephew and the wall. Emma and Maya would be at the kids' table. A card table set up in the living room, just visible from the dining room but clearly separate. Patricia's niece and nephew were already seated there, phones out, ignoring the festive placemat someone had laid down. I helped my daughters get situated, making sure they had everything they needed. Maya still clutched her ornament. Emma gave me a look that said she understood exactly what was happening but was trying to be brave about it. Back in the dining room, everyone had found their seats except me. I stood behind one of the end chairs, feeling like a stranger at my own family's Christmas dinner. Daniel cleared his throat. "So, Natalie, how's work going?" It was the first personal question anyone had asked me since I'd arrived. "Busy. The firm's been handling a lot of year-end contracts." "Still doing that legal assistant thing?" Patricia asked, reaching for the rolls. "Paralegal," I corrected. "I passed my certification exam in October." "Oh, that's nice," Diane interjected. "Robert's niece is a paralegal too. Works for a big firm downtown. Probably makes quite a bit more than smaller offices pay, but every job has value, doesn't it?" The backhanded compliment hung in the air. I smiled tightly and said nothing. Mom emerged from the kitchen carrying the ham, Daniel jumping up to help her. They placed it in the center of the table, and suddenly everyone was passing dishes, filling plates, commenting on how wonderful everything looked. I served myself small portions, my appetite fading with each passive-aggressive comment floating around the table. Patricia mentioned how nice it was to have real family time this year. Diane talked about how important it was for children to grow up around stable family units. Robert launched into a story about his own childhood Christmases, where 3 generations lived under one roof and everyone knew their place. From the living room, I could hear Maya asking Emma something in a small voice. Emma's response was too quiet to make out, but her tone was gentle, protective. Halfway through the meal, Patricia's sister mentioned their family's upcoming ski trip to Aspen. "We're leaving the day after Christmas. The whole family's going. It'll be our first big vacation since the wedding." "The whole family?" I asked, the words escaping before I could stop them. Patricia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Well, immediate family. It's a small condo, only so much room." Daniel had said nothing about a ski trip when I'd asked him last month about New Year's plans. He'd said he and Patricia were staying local, maybe doing a quiet dinner with Mom. But apparently, that was before Patricia's family decided to vacation together. And apparently, my daughters and I weren't part of the whole family. I excused myself, needing a moment. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection and practiced the breathing exercises my therapist had taught me. Count to 4. Hold. Release. This was temporary. We'd eat, exchange gifts, and leave. The girls and I would go home to our apartment, watch a movie, and open our own presents in the morning. When I returned, dessert had been served. My pie sat untouched on the dessert table while everyone ate the store-bought options. Maya had wandered over to the Christmas tree, that ornament still in her hands, examining the decorations with longing eyes. Mom saw her. "Maya, step back from the tree. You'll knock something over." "I was just looking, Grandma." "Well, look from over there. Some of those ornaments are very old and valuable." "Unlike your ornament," the unspoken words seemed to say. "Unlike you." I'd had enough. I stood, walking over to Maya and placing my hand on her shoulder. "Time to get our coats, baby." Emma appeared instantly, reading the situation. "Are we leaving?" "Yes, we are." Mom looked up, surprised. "We haven't done gifts yet." "I don't think that's necessary," I said calmly. Daniel frowned. "Natalie, don't be dramatic. It's Christmas." "You're right. It is Christmas. And my daughters have been treated like unwanted guests since we arrived. We're going home where we're actually wanted." "Nobody treated them badly," Patricia protested. "They got to decorate cookies and everything. At a separate table. In the corner. While your family got the main counter." I kept my voice level, but my hands trembled slightly as I helped Maya into her coat. "It's fine. We know where we stand." Mom stood up from the table, her face flushing. "Natalie Marie Henderson, you are overreacting. The girls are fine." "No, Mom. They're not fine. Maya tried to give you a handmade gift 3 times, and you barely looked at it. Emma's been watching everyone fawn over Patricia's family while you've ignored your own granddaughters. I brought the pie you specifically requested, and it's sitting over there untouched while everyone raves about grocery store desserts." "There were already other pies. Then why did you ask me to bring one?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. "You know what? It doesn't matter. Girls, say goodbye to your grandmother." Emma's voice was small but polite. "Bye, Grandma." Merry Christmas. Maya, still clutching her ornament, whispered, Merry Christmas. We were at the door when Mom's voice stopped me. It wasn't loud, but something in her tone made everyone at the table freeze. Everything was peaceful until you showed up. I turned slowly. My mother stood in the doorway between the dining room and foyer, her face a mixture of frustration and something else I couldn't quite identify. Behind her, I could see Patricia's family watching with poorly concealed interest. Daniel looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Maya's head lowered. She stared at her shoes, that precious ornament clutched against her chest. My 6-year-old daughter, who'd spent hours making a gift for her grandmother, who'd been so excited about Christmas at Grandma's house, was literally shrinking under the weight of those words. I bent down and kissed the top of Maya's head, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. Then I straightened and looked my mother directly in the eye. Then my money's leaving with me. Mom blinked. What? You heard me. I kept my voice calm, almost conversational. The money I've been sending you every month for the past 2 years. The deposits that cover your property taxes, the house repairs, your new roof last spring. That money is leaving with you. Effective immediately. The color drained from her face. Natalie, I've been paying $1,500 a month into your account since Dad died. That's $18,000 a year, $36,000 over 2 years. I've done it quietly, never mentioned it, because I knew you were struggling and I wanted to help. But if my presence makes everything unpeaceful, if my daughters are such a burden, then clearly my financial support isn't wanted either. Daniel stepped forward. Hold on. You've been sending Mom money? Every month since Dad's life insurance ran out. It wasn't enough to cover everything, so I picked up the slack. The property taxes alone are $7,000 annually. The roof was $12,000. The new water heater. The HVAC repairs. I paid for all of it. Mom's mouth opened and closed. Patricia's family had gone completely silent, the entertainment value of this scene apparently outweighing their social discomfort. I work 50 hours a week, I continued, my voice steady despite the anger coursing through me. I take extra freelance work at night after the girls go to bed. I drive a 12-year-old car because I can't afford a new one. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment instead of a house because rent is all I can manage. I do all of this, sacrifice all of this, so my mother can keep the home she shared with my father. The home where I grew up. The home I foolishly thought my daughters might have positive memories of someday. We didn't know, Daniel said weakly. Of course you didn't. Because Mom never mentioned it, did she? Never told you that your baby sister was keeping her afloat. But somehow there's always money for you, Daniel. Money for that jet ski you wanted last summer. Money to help with your wedding. I never said anything because family helps family, right? That's what I was taught. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, navigating to the scheduled transfer screen. With a few taps, I canceled the recurring payment. There. Done. You'll have to figure out January's property taxes on your own, Mom. They're due on the 15th, in case you forgot. Natalie, wait. Mom's voice had shifted, taking on a pleading quality. Don't be hasty. We can talk about this. I tried to talk. I tried to participate in today. I tried to give my daughters a nice Christmas with their grandmother and uncle. But you made it clear we're not really family anymore. Patricia's parents sit in Dad's chairs. Patricia's siblings get the good seats at dinner. Patricia's family goes on ski trips while my girls eat at a card table in the corner. It's not like that, Patricia protested, but her voice lacked conviction. It's exactly like that. And I'm done pretending otherwise. I opened the door, cold air rushing in. Come on, girls. Natalie? Mom's voice had taken on a desperate edge. Please. Let's be reasonable. I paused on the threshold. Maya and Emma stood on either side of me, my daughters who deserved so much better than this. I am being reasonable, Mom. I'm removing myself from a situation where I'm not wanted. Isn't that what you wanted? Peace? We walked to the car in silence. I buckled the girls into their seats, started the engine, and began backing out of the driveway. Through the window, I could see Mom standing on the porch, her red sweater bright against the darkness. She was calling something, but I couldn't hear it over the sound of the heater. My phone buzzed before we'd even reached the end of the street. Mom calling. I declined it. It buzzed again. Another call. Then a text. Please come back. We need to talk about this. I kept driving. By the time we reached our apartment, I had 17 missed calls and 12 text messages. All from Mom. A few from Daniel. Nothing from Patricia, notably. Emma helped Maya out of her coat while I locked the door behind us. Our little apartment, with its second-hand furniture and walls that needed repainting, had never looked more welcoming. "Mommy?" Maya's small voice broke the silence. "Did we do something wrong?" I knelt down, pulling both girls into a hug. "No, baby. You did nothing wrong. Nothing at all. Grandma was having a hard day, and sometimes adults don't handle their feelings well." "Are we going back?" Emma asked. "Not today. Maybe not for a while. But that's okay. We have each other, and that's what matters." I ordered pizza for dinner, Christmas pizza, which the girls thought was hilarious. We watched movies, drank hot chocolate with extra marshmallows, and I let them open one present each before bed. Maya chose a new art set, immediately setting up at the kitchen table to create something. Emma picked a book series she'd been wanting, curling up on the couch to start the first volume. My phone continued buzzing periodically. I ignored it until both girls were asleep, Maya in her bed with her new markers scattered across her nightstand, Emma on the top bunk with her book marked and set aside. Only then did I read the messages. "Mom, we need to talk about the money situation. This isn't fair to bring up in front of everyone." "Mom, I didn't realize you were struggling so much. You should have said something." "Mom, the girls are always welcome here. I don't know why you're making such a big deal out of nothing." "Daniel, Mom's really upset. Can you call her?" "Daniel, look, I get you're mad, but this is extreme. It's Christmas." "Daniel, did you really cancel the payments?" Mom's panicking. I typed out a single response to Daniel: "I'm blocking both of you for tonight. We can talk after the holiday if you want, but right now I need space." Then I set my phone to do not disturb and poured myself a glass of the wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. This felt special enough, the first Christmas in years where I'd stood up for my daughters and myself. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of neighbors' music filtering through the walls. I sat on the couch, Maya's ornament on the coffee table in front of me. She'd left it there after dinner, her attention captured by the new art supplies. Looking at that handmade reindeer with its crooked antlers and slightly uneven jingle bells, I felt something shift inside me. This was what mattered. Not impressing Patricia's family or winning back Mom's approval. Not maintaining some facade of perfect family harmony that had never really existed. My daughters deserved better. And I deserved better. I fell asleep on the couch that night, planning. Update 1. The day after Christmas, I unblocked my phone to find 43 missed calls and 37 text messages. Most were from Mom, increasingly frantic as the day had progressed. Several from Daniel, ranging from annoyed to worried. 2 from Patricia, both saying I'd ruined Christmas and needed to apologize. I deleted Patricia's messages without responding. Daniel's messages showed an interesting progression. The early ones demanded I call Mom back. The middle ones tried reasoning, explaining that Mom was just set in her ways and didn't mean anything by it. The most recent one, sent at 2 in the morning, simply said, "We need to talk about Dad's estate." That one made me sit up. I'd largely stayed out of estate discussions after Dad died. Daniel, as the older child and the one who lived locally, had handled most of it with Mom. I'd been drowning in single parenthood at the time. Emma was 7, Maya was 3, and my ex-husband had just moved across the country for a job, leaving me with full custody and minimal child support. Dad's life insurance had paid out $400,000. Mom got half immediately. The other half was supposed to be divided between Daniel and me, held in trust for a year to help Mom adjust. But when that year ended, Mom said she needed more time. The market was bad, she said. Taxes were high. The house needed work. I'd agreed without argument. What else was I supposed to do? My mother was grieving, struggling. Daniel supported the decision. As the dutiful daughter, I went along with it. That was 2.5 years ago. I'd never seen a penny of that inheritance. Never pushed for it. Assumed it was still sitting somewhere, waiting for whenever Mom felt stable enough to distribute it, but Daniel's text made me wonder. I spent December 26 doing something I should have done years ago. I pulled every document I had related to Dad's estate. Bank statements he'd shared with me before he died. Copies of his will. The life insurance policy documents. Then I called a lawyer, not someone from my firm, but a family law attorney a friend had recommended. Her name was Jennifer Moss, and her retainer was more than I wanted to spend. But she listened to my situation, asked pointed questions, and agreed to pull the estate records. "Give me 3 days," she said. I'll find out exactly where things stand. Those 3 days felt like 3 weeks. I went to work, came home, helped the girls with their post-holiday sugar crashes and new toy excitement. Emma asked once if we were going to see Grandma again soon. I told her maybe later, that Grandma needed some space right now. Maya hung her ornament on our small apartment Christmas tree. It looked perfect there, front and center, jingle bells catching the light. Mom called every day. I didn't answer. She left voicemails that started angry, turned pleading, and eventually became businesslike. The last one said simply, "Natalie, we have legal matters to discuss. Please call me back." Daniel texted daily too. His messages had shifted tone entirely. No more demands that I apologize. Now he wanted to discuss finances and clarify some misunderstandings about Dad's estate. I responded to neither of them. On December 29th, Jennifer called me at work. "Can you come to my office this afternoon? I have information you need to see in person." I left work early, my stomach churning. Jennifer's office was in a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel. Her conference room had a view of the city, but I barely noticed it. My attention was fixed on the documents spread across the table. "Your father's estate was valued at $1.2 million, Jennifer began. "Between the life insurance, his retirement accounts, investment portfolios, and the house equity. I'd known Dad was comfortable, but I hadn't realized it was that much. Your mother received $600,000 outright, the life insurance and half the retirement accounts. The remaining $600,000 was to be held in trust for 1 year, then divided equally between you and your brother, $300,000 each." "That's what I understood," I said, my mouth dry. Jennifer slid a document across to me. "The trust was dissolved 18 months ago. The money was distributed." My heart sank. "To Daniel and Mom? To your brother? All of it?" She pulled out another document. "Your mother signed as trustee, transferring the full amount to Daniel James Henderson on July 15, 2 years ago. The notation says early distribution for home purchase and family needs." The room spun slightly. "All of it? My portion too?" "Yes. Your mother had discretion as trustee to modify distributions if she deemed it necessary for family welfare. The document Daniel and your mother both signed stated that your brother had urgent family financial needs and that you had verbally agreed to defer your inheritance to help your brother establish his household. I'd never agreed to anything of the sort." "There's more," Jennifer continued, her expression sympathetic. "Your brother purchased a home 2 years ago for $575,000. He paid cash. Public records show the house is solely in his name, his wife isn't on the deed, which is unusual for a married couple. $575,000. Almost twice what he was supposed to inherit." "Your brother took your inheritance," Jennifer said quietly. "Whether your mother was complicit or simply allowed it to happen, I can't say without more information. But yes, he took money that was legally designated for you." I stared at the documents, my father's signature on the will swimming before my eyes. He'd wanted us both taken care of. Had specifically written that Daniel and I should receive equal shares. And they'd stolen it. Not just the money, though that was devastating enough. They'd stolen it while I was working myself to exhaustion to keep Mom's house afloat. While I was living paycheck to paycheck, driving a dime car, denying my daughters things they needed because I couldn't afford them. While I was lying awake at night worrying about making rent, Daniel had been sitting on $500,000 of my inheritance. "Can I get it back?" My voice sounded distant, disconnected. "That depends. If you can prove you never agreed to defer your inheritance, you have grounds to sue. But litigation is expensive, time-consuming, and emotionally draining. Family lawsuits often destroy whatever relationships remain." "There's nothing left to destroy," I said flatly. Jennifer nodded. "Then we have options. I can send a demand letter first, that's standard practice. We outline what happened, demand repayment of your portion plus interest, and give them 30 days to respond. Most cases settle at that stage once people realize the alternative is court. And if they don't settle? We file suit. Discovery process, depositions, trial if necessary. It could take a year or more. But you have a strong case, the will is clear, and the trustee's discretion doesn't extend to completely cutting out a named beneficiary without their explicit consent." I thought about my daughters. About Maya's ornament that didn't find a place on Mom's tree. About Emma's quiet understanding that her family was fracturing. About every sacrifice I'd made thinking I was helping my mother when really, I'd been subsidizing Daniel's life while he sat on money that should have been mine. "Send the letter," I said. Jennifer nodded approvingly. I'll draft it today. They'll have it by January 2nd. In the meantime, I need you to document everything, every payment you've made to your mother, every text message, every conversation about finances. Everything. I left her office as the sun was setting, the city lights beginning to glow against the darkening sky. My phone buzzed with another text from Daniel. Mom wants to meet. Just talk. No drama. I finally responded, tell Mom she'll be hearing from my attorney. The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, what attorney? Natalie, what are you doing? Getting what's legally mine. What Dad wanted me to have. My phone rang immediately. Daniel calling. I declined it. He called again. I declined again. Then Mom called. Daniel called. Mom again. I blocked both numbers. That evening, I sat down with Emma and Maya. Emma was old enough to understand some of what was happening. Maya less so, but she deserved honesty too. I need to tell you both something, I began. Grandma and Uncle Daniel did something that wasn't right. They took money that Grandpa wanted us to have, money that was supposed to help us. I'm working with a lawyer to fix it, but it might take some time. We probably won't be seeing them for a while. Emma processed this with her usual thoughtfulness. Is that why you were sad when Grandpa died? Because you knew they were going to be mean? I was sad because I loved Grandpa very much. But yes, some things have happened that made me realize Grandma and Uncle Daniel don't treat us the way family should. Are we still family? Maya asked, her small face scrunched with worry. I pulled her into my lap. You, me, and Emma, we're family. We'll always be family. And family takes care of each other, protects each other. That's what I'm doing now. Protecting us. On January 2nd, Jennifer sent the demand letter via certified mail to both Mom and Daniel. I received copies, 6 pages of legal language that boiled down to return Natalie's inheritance or face a lawsuit. The response came faster than expected. Daniel showed up at my apartment on January 4th. I was making dinner when the doorbell rang. Emma answered before I could stop her, and suddenly my brother was standing in my living room, looking haggard and angry. You need to stop this, he said without preamble. Emma, Maya, go to your room please, I said calmly. But Mom, now, please. They went, but I knew Emma would be listening from the hallway. She was too smart not to. You can't sue your own family, Daniel continued. Do you know what this is doing to Mom? She's had chest pains. She had to go to the emergency room yesterday. Then she should return my inheritance. That'll solve the problem quickly. It's not that simple. The money's been spent. Not all of it. You bought a house for $575. You only inherited $300,000. Where did the rest come from, Daniel? His face flushed. That's not your business. It became my business when you stole my inheritance. $300,000, Daniel. That was mine. Dad wanted me to have it. You weren't in a position to manage money back then. Mom and you decided to steal from me. Without asking. Without telling me. While I was sending Mom $1,500 a month, you were sitting on $500,000 that included my inheritance. Did you laugh about it? Did Patricia? Don't bring Patricia into this. Patricia's family got to enjoy Christmas while my daughters sat at a card table in the corner. Patricia gets ski trips to Aspen while I struggle to afford winter coats. Patricia's living in a house purchased with my money. She's absolutely in this. Daniel's hands clenched into fists, then relaxed. He seemed to be fighting for control. Look, we can work something out. I can pay you back over time. Monthly installments or something. But you have to drop the lawsuit. How much monthly? I don't know. 1,000? I'd have to look at our budget. I laughed, the sound bitter even to my own ears. $1,000 a month? It would take 25 years to pay back the principal, never mind interest. I'm 34 years old, Daniel. I'll be 60 before I see that money. What do you want me to do? I don't have $300,000 just lying around. You have a house worth at least $600,000 now. Market's gone up. Sell it. Sell my house? Are you insane? Where would Patricia and I live? Rent an apartment. Like I do. Like millions of people do. You'll survive. This is vindictive. You're punishing us because Mom didn't fawn over your kids at Christmas. This has nothing to do with Christmas. Christmas was just when I finally saw clearly what you all think of me and my daughters. But the inheritance? That's been stolen from me for 2 years. I'm done being the family doormat. Dad would be ashamed of you right now. The words hit like a slap. I took a breath, steadied myself. Dad left me $300,000. He wanted me taken care of. You and Mom stole it. If Dad's ashamed of anyone, it's you. Daniel stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Finally, he turned toward the door. This isn't over. Mom's getting her own lawyer. Good. Tell her to call Jennifer Moss. They can negotiate. But I want my money, Daniel. All of it. With interest. And I want it soon, or we're going to court. He left, slamming the door hard enough that pictures rattled on the walls. Emma emerged from the hallway. Is Uncle Daniel bad? I considered how to answer. Uncle Daniel made bad choices. That doesn't make him completely bad, but it does mean we need to protect ourselves from those choices. Good, Emma said firmly. I didn't like him anyway. He never remembered my birthday. Despite everything, I smiled. Update 2, Mom hired an attorney. His name was Richard Cooperman, and according to Jennifer, he was expensive and aggressive. That told me Mom was taking this seriously, which meant she was either scared or determined not to lose. The first settlement offer came on January 15, $150,000, paid over 10 years. It's insulting, Jennifer said when she called to tell me. They're offering you half what you're owed, stretched over a decade. They're betting you can't afford to litigate and will take whatever you can get. What do we counter with? The full amount plus interest. $300,000 principal, plus 12% annual interest compounded over 2.5 years. That comes to approximately $395,000 total. Paid in full within 90 days. They'll never agree to that. Probably not. But we start high. This is a negotiation. We went back and forth for 3 weeks. Each offer from Cooperman was slightly better than the last, but never close to reasonable. $175,000 over 8 years. $200,000 over 6 years. They were trying to wear me down. But every time I felt myself weakening, I remembered Maya's face when Mom dismissed her ornament. Remembered Emma's quiet acceptance of being lesser than at the kids' table. Remembered 2 years of struggling while Daniel lived comfortably on stolen money. In early February, Jennifer called with news. Cooperman filed a motion to dismiss, claiming you verbally agreed to defer your inheritance. They are going to argue that family discussions constitute legally binding agreements. I never agreed to anything. I know. But they'll try to twist it. They'll say you knew Daniel needed help buying a house, that you were part of family conversations about finances, that your silence constituted consent. So what do? We subpoena the trust documents. All of them. Every conversation, every email, every text between your mother and brother about the estate. We build a timeline showing you were never consulted, never agreed, and were actively misled about the status of the trust. How long will that take? Months. Maybe longer. Family court moves slowly. Jennifer paused. Natalie, I need to be honest with you. This is going to get ugly. They're going to paint you as money-hungry, vindictive, a bad daughter. They'll bring up every family argument, every disagreement. They'll try to make you look like the villain. Let them. I know the truth. Discovery was brutal. We subpoenaed Mom's financial records, Daniel's bank statements, emails between them discussing the estate. In return, Cooperman subpoenaed my records, looking for anything to suggest I'd known about or agreed to the distribution. He found nothing, because there was nothing to find. What we found in their records was damning. Email from Mom to Daniel, dated July 10, 2 years ago. Natalie's too overwhelmed with the divorce and the girls to handle money right now. We should use her portion to help you get established. She'll understand when things settle down. Daniel's response, are you sure? Won't she ask questions? Mom, I'll handle it. She trusts me. There were more. Texts between Daniel and Patricia discussing how they'd use the extra money to upgrade their kitchen. Emails from Mom to her financial advisor, instructing him to transfer the full trust amount to Daniel's account. Bank statements showing Daniel's cash purchase of the house 3 weeks after receiving the trust distribution. Not once had either of them contacted me about any of it. In late March, Jennifer and I met with Cooperman and his clients. Standard mediation, neutral location, everyone in professional attire trying to pretend we weren't a family tearing itself apart. Mom looked smaller than I remembered. Older. She wore a gray suit that swallowed her frame and wouldn't meet my eyes. Daniel sat beside her, his jaw tight, his hands folded on the table. Patricia wasn't there. I suspected she'd been advised to stay away. Let's lay out where we are, the mediator began. He was a retired judge, professionally pleasant and utterly uninterested in the emotional aspects of our dispute. Ms. Henderson is seeking the return of her inheritance, approximately $300,000 plus interest. Mrs. Henderson and Mr. Henderson contend that Ms. Henderson verbally agreed to defer her inheritance to help her brother. Is that accurate? Yes, Cooperman said. The family had discussions. We'd like to see documentation of my client agreeing to anything, Jennifer interrupted. Emails, texts, recorded conversations. Anything showing explicit consent. Cooperman's jaw tightened. Family matters aren't always documented. No, but legal distributions of estate assets are. Your clients had no problem documenting the transfer to Mr. Henderson. They documented at every other aspect of the estate. But somehow there's no record of Ms. Henderson agreeing to give up $300,000. Convenient. Mom finally spoke, her voice trembling. Natalie, please. I thought you understood. I thought we were helping each other. Helping each other? I kept my voice level. I sent you $1,800 every month for 2 years. $36,000 total. Money I couldn't afford to give, money my daughters needed. I did that thinking you were struggling. And the whole time, you've given Daniel my inheritance. He needed it more. He was starting a family, buying a house. I have 2 daughters. I'm raising them alone. How did I not need it? The mediator raised a hand. Let's focus on resolution. Mrs. Henderson, Mr. Henderson, are you willing to return any portion of Ms. Henderson's inheritance? Daniel leaned forward. We've offered multiple settlement amounts, all of which were insultingly low, Jennifer cut in. You're trying to negotiate down on stolen money. It wasn't stolen, Cooperman said firmly. Mrs. Henderson had legal authority as trustee to manage the trust for the beneficiary's benefit, not to eliminate one beneficiary entirely. She breached her fiduciary duty. You know it, I know it, and if we go to trial, a judge will know it too. The room fell silent. I watched my mother's face crumple, watched her age 10 years in 10 seconds. Part of me wanted to comfort her. The daughter I used to be would have apologized, would have said it was fine, would have let it go. But I thought about Emma and Maya. About the example I was setting. About teaching them that family doesn't mean letting people abuse your trust and steal from you. I want my full inheritance, I said clearly. $300,000. I'll forego the interest if you pay within 60 days. That's my final offer. 60 days? Daniel's voice cracked. That's impossible. I have to sell the house, then sell it. You'd make your own mother homeless? The house is in your name, Daniel, not Mom's. And I've been keeping Mom's actual house afloat with my own money while you lived off mine. Don't talk to me about making people homeless. Mom was crying now, quiet tears sliding down her face. Cooperman handed her a tissue, shooting me a look clearly meant to convey what a monster I was. I didn't care. We need time to consider this, Cooperman said finally. You have 1 week, Jennifer replied. After that, we file for trial. And when we do, everything comes out, every email, every text, every financial record. The court of public opinion isn't always kind to people who steal from their own children. We left the mediation with no resolution. Jennifer seemed pleased despite that. We'll hear from them within the week, she said. Probably with acceptance. They don't want this going to trial. She was right. 5 days later, Cooperman sent a settlement agreement. Daniel would sell the house. Mom would contribute $50,000 from her savings. The remaining $250,000 would come from the house sale. I'd receive the full $300,000 within 90 days, the extra month to allow time for the house sale to close. In return, I'd sign a release absolving them of any further claims related to Dad's estate. Take it, Jennifer advised. You won, Natalie. This is complete victory. I signed the agreement on April 1st. No joke, though the date felt fitting somehow. Final update. The house sold in June for $625,000. After paying off the small mortgage Daniel had taken out to renovate the kitchen, using my money to upgrade a house purchased with my money, the irony wasn't lost on me, he netted about $580,000. Half of that, $290,000, went to me. Mom's $50,000 brought my total to $340,000, $40,000 more than the original inheritance because Jennifer had negotiated an additional 10% for the delayed payment. The check arrived on June 15th. I deposited it, then sat in my car in the bank parking lot and cried. Not from relief, though there was some of that. But from grief for what this money represented, a family destroyed, a father whose final wishes had been perverted, 2 years of my life spent struggling unnecessarily. Emma asked that night if we were rich now. I explained that we were comfortable, not rich. That the money would go toward their college funds, toward a down payment on a small house, toward the security we'd been lacking. Will we see Grandma again? Maya asked. She was 8 now, growing up fast. She rarely asked about her grandmother anymore, but sometimes the question still surfaced. Maybe someday, I said honestly. When we're all ready. But not anytime soon. Mom sent a letter in July. Not through lawyers, not through Daniel. Just a handwritten note delivered to my workplace, probably because she didn't know my current address. I'd moved to a house in a better school district in August, using some of the inheritance for the down payment. The letter said she was sorry. That she'd convinced herself she was doing the right thing, protecting Daniel, who'd always been sensitive about money. That she'd rationalized it by thinking I was stronger, more independent, that I'd be fine without the inheritance. She said she understood if I never forgave her, but she hoped someday I might let her be part of Emma and Maya's lives again. She missed them, she said. Missed me. I kept the letter but didn't respond. Maybe someday I would. Maybe someday enough time would pass that we could rebuild something. But that day wasn't today, and it wouldn't be tomorrow. Daniel, I learned through a mutual friend, moved to a smaller house in a less expensive neighborhood. Patricia allegedly wasn't happy about the downgrade. Their marriage was reportedly strained. I felt nothing about that, no satisfaction, no sympathy. Just distant acknowledgement that actions have consequences. I took the girls to Disney World in October. Our first real vacation, staying in a nice hotel, eating at restaurants without checking prices first. Maya got her picture with every princess. Emma discovered a love for the thrill rides, dragging me onto Space Mountain 3 times. On our last night, as we watched the fireworks over Cinderella's castle, Maya leaned against me and said, "This is the best time ever, Mommy." Emma, more perceptive, asked quietly, "Do you wish Grandma was here?" I thought about it honestly. Part of me does. The part that remembers good times, before everything fell apart. But another part is glad it's just us. Glad we don't have to worry about anyone making you feel small or unwanted. I like it being just us too, Emma said. We're a good team. We were a good team. We'd gotten through the divorce, through poverty, through betrayal and loss. We'd come out stronger, more bonded, more aware of our own worth. The inheritance changed our circumstances, but it didn't change who we were. We were still the same 3 people who'd walked out of that Christmas gathering, who'd chosen dignity over acceptance, who'd learned that family loyalty flows both ways or not at all. I still drive past Mom's house sometimes. It's on the way to the girls' school, impossible to avoid completely. She's still there, still managing on her fixed income now that my monthly support is gone. The lawn isn't quite as neat. The paint is chipping on the shutters. Part of me wants to feel guilty about that. I don't. Emma's in middle school now, excelling in her classes, making friends easily. Maya's in 4th grade, her artistic talent developing beautifully. Her teacher wants to submit some of her work to a regional competition. They're happy, secure, thriving. They still have that popsicle stick reindeer ornament. It's a little worse for wear now, one jingle bell lost, the googly eyes slightly unstuck. But it holds pride of place on our tree every Christmas, right in the front where everyone can see it. Last December, Maya made ornaments for her classmates. She spent weeks on them, personalizing each one. I watched her work with such care and thought about her grandmother dismissing her handmade gift, refusing to hang it on the tree. Some people don't deserve the love and effort we offer them. Learning to recognize that, learning to save our gifts for those who truly value them, that's one of life's hardest lessons. But it's also one of the most important. We had Christmas at our house this year, just the 3 of us, plus Emma's best friend whose family was traveling. We made a turkey, baked cookies, sang carols off-key. It was loud and chaotic and imperfect and absolutely perfect. No one told us we were ruining the peace. No one made my daughters feel less than. No one dismissed their gifts or their presence or their worth. And that, I've learned, is what family should actually feel like. Sometimes people ask if I regret what I did. If I regret pursuing the inheritance, burning bridges with my mother and brother, choosing money over family. I never chose money over family. I chose self-respect over abuse. I chose my daughter's well-being over toxic relationships. I chose justice over enabling theft. The money was never really the point. It was the principle underneath, the recognition that I mattered, that my daughters mattered, that we deserved basic respect and fairness. Would I do it again, knowing what it would cost? In a heartbeat. Because the alternative, teaching my daughters to accept mistreatment, to prioritize others' comfort over their own dignity, to smile and stay silent while being diminished, that would have cost so much more. They watch me now, Emma and Maya. They see their mother stand up for herself, refuse to accept less than she deserves, fight for what's right even when it's hard. They see a woman who works hard, loves fiercely, and doesn't let anyone, not even family, make her feel small. That's the inheritance I'm really leaving them. Not the money in their college funds, though that matters too. But the knowledge that they have worth, that they deserve respect, that love without dignity isn't really love at all. Mom sent a card for Emma's 13th birthday last month. Inside was a check for $50 and a note saying she thought about the girls every day. Emma looked at it for a long time before asking what I thought she should do. That's your choice, I told her. I won't be angry either way. She cashed the check and used the money to buy art supplies for Maya. She wrote a polite thank you note but didn't include our address or phone number. Maybe when I'm older, she said when I asked if she wanted to reconnect with her grandmother. Maybe when I'm sure she won't hurt Mom again. My 13-year-old daughter, protecting me. It broke my heart and filled it simultaneously. This is what we've built from the wreckage, a small, fierce family unit that values each other above all else. We're not perfect. We struggle sometimes. But we struggle together, and we never make each other feel worthless or unwanted. Every year on Christmas, Maya hangs that reindeer ornament first, right in the center of the tree where the lights hit it just right and those slightly crooked jingle bells catch the glow. And every year, I remember the woman I was 3 years ago, standing in my mother's foyer with my daughters at my side, making the choice to walk away from toxicity even though it hurt. Best decision I ever made. The girls and I are planning a trip to Europe next summer. Paris, London, Rome, all the places I dreamed about visiting when I was young but never thought I'd afford. Emma wants to see the Louvre. Maya wants to throw a coin in the Trevi Fountain. I want to show them the world, show them possibilities, show them that their mother's courage in fighting for what she deserved opened doors they didn't even know existed. Sometimes strength looks like fighting. Sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like a woman standing in a doorway, kissing her daughter's head and calmly stating her boundaries while her whole world shifts beneath her feet. I did that. I survived it. We're thriving because of it. And if I've learned anything from all of this, it's that the peace you have to diminish yourself to maintain isn't peace at all. Real peace comes from knowing your worth, defending your boundaries, and surrounding yourself with people who celebrate rather than tolerate your presence. My daughters know that now. They learned it by watching me learn it. That's worth more than any inheritance ever could be. In the quiet moments, when both girls are asleep and the house is still, I sometimes think about forgiveness. Not the kind where everything goes back to how it was, that's impossible now, and maybe it should be. But the kind where the anger loosens its grip, where I can remember the good parts of my childhood without the bitterness overwhelming everything else. I'm not there yet. Maybe someday. But I've learned that forgiveness isn't required for healing. You can acknowledge someone hurt you, refuse to let them hurt you again, and still move forward into joy. You don't have to reconcile with toxicity to find peace. My peace lives in this small house, in my daughter's laughter, in knowing I stood up for us when it mattered most. It lives in Maya's artwork covering our refrigerator and Emma's book report scattered across the kitchen table. It lives in Friday night movie marathons and spontaneous dance parties and the absolute certainty that my children will never doubt their worth because someone else couldn't see it. That's the real victory. Not the money, not the legal win, not even the justice of making things right. The victory is in the life we've built, messy, imperfect, and wholly ours. A life where love isn't conditional on silence or acceptance of mistreatment. A life where we protect each other fiercely and celebrate each other loudly and never, ever let anyone make us feel like our presence is a disruption to someone else's peace. Because we are each other's peace. And that's more than enough. Sometimes love means letting go of the people who can't love you properly. It means teaching your children, through action, not just words, that their worth is inherent and non-negotiable. It means standing in uncomfortable truth rather than comfortable lies. The bravest thing we can do is choose ourselves and the people who truly cherish us, even when that choice looks selfish to those who benefited from our silence. Peace isn't found in keeping everyone happy, it's found in knowing you honored your own dignity and protected the hearts entrusted to your care. That kind of peace, hard-won and fiercely guarded, is where real family begins.